we cracked we had customers like SpaceX, we had customers like Nasdaq, NBA, Automation Anywhere. So the kind of premium customers list which we had at that point was very crucial to us, and these are very strategic customers.
Can you give us the more of a first principles view of the go-to-market strategy that you've had?
So go-to-market is kind of divided. For me, it was always divided in two parts. There is a branding go-to-market, and then there is the non-branded go-to-market, where you are just, it's like, outbound approach. I had, my network. I'm an ex-Cisco. A good part was while I was in Cisco, most of the people I was dealing with were VPs, SVPs at that point. By the time I came out, been 5, 6 years, most of them were like CTOs, CEOs, some of the good part. Like again, if you maintain good relationship with people, someday or the other, I mean, you never know who can just offer their hand to help you. So few of them, they were very eager to help me out. I think I'm very grateful to them.
Welcome to our latest episode. Have you heard about Accurics? If not, you're in for a treat. Their journey is a blueprint for every aspiring founder out there. Picture this. In just 18 months, they went from ground zero to a staggering $160 million acquisition. Today, we're diving deep with Sharad Kumar, co-founder of Accurics, to unravel the secrets behind their lightning fast success. From the very first steps to the big acquisition, we will cover it all. So grab a seat and listen up as we explore their innovative tool designed to help companies navigate compliance hurdles and security risks with ease. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everyday Leadership, another episode today. And in today's episode, we'll talk about startup idea to a $160 million acquisition. That's right, you've heard it right. It's a $160 million acquisition. We'll try to uncover what went behind the scene in terms of all the way from an idea to the product to traction to acquisition. So to share all of those valuable insights, one, please stay tuned while we bring in our guest, Sharad Kumar. Sharad, why don't you just start us with a good introduction of yourself? Tell us who you are and how did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for the welcoming, and thanks Pradeep for inviting to this podcast. So a little bit about myself. I come from primarily more on the finance and the strategy side of the world. Being a non-engineer is definitely a tough thing in an engineering world, and establishing yourself among all the who's who within the industry. But I think one of the things which I learned over the period of time is the best ability is learn quickly and learn fast. So I think my background primarily is into finance and strategy, which came. I worked at Cisco for quite some time. I was managing their IoT business at that point from a finance strategy standpoint, and then from there I went to Flextronics, and from there I went to Pulse Secure. That's where my stint with security started, and so we did a spun off of a company called Juno's Pulse, which became Pulse Secure. And basically, what we used to say was 80% of the Fortune 500 companies used Pulse Secure. So that was the footprint was pretty wide, and we're very proud of it. So that was done by a private equity company called Cirrus Capital, and that's where within that we did 3 acquisitions, one of which was an MDM tool. Another was we did a NAC tool, NAC, network access control. And then the third one was, while Brocade was getting sold to Qualcomm at that point in time, we took the VADC load balancer business. That gave me a very fair idea with regards to the whole security roadmap, how it works, where it goes, from here where. And it was not very complicated to understand if you have right people around you to help you understand. And people definitely respect you well at that point, and they help you understand. So I did that, and then after that, we did Accurics. And as an entrepreneur now, I'm just putting another startup together after selling that. So that's a little bit about myself.
What an outstanding journey there. I mean, to overcome all those hurdles of not being an engineer in Silicon Valley and then navigating all of this to becoming a successful entrepreneur. Outstanding. And were you involved in the capacity of an engineer from Cisco to Flextronics to all those other companies? Or
And I was more into strategy side of the world. So
hmm,
more into analytics, strategy, finance. So
hmm,
I used to control most of the budgets. Then the sales operations also came under me, and then finance and sales ops both came to me. So
hmm,
that was one fun part. So Cisco, they had there's something used to be called as market adjacency. This is I'm calling 10 years back. So they had 29 market adjacencies at the era of John Chambers. So my unit had around 11 adjacencies.
nice.
So that's
And
what.
for today's part, we'll have a bounding box and we'll particularly just talk about Accurics in terms of how Accurics was ideated all the way to the acquisition. With that context, can you talk about Accurics as an idea? Like, where did it all start from?
Mhm, absolutely. So, very interestingly, the era which we when we started Accurics, if you see the trend itself, uh, automation like the container security part was done, and that layer was finished. Like Twistlog got acquired by Palo Alto, that thing is done. When there is a product life cycle keeps on updating itself every 3 to 4 years. And when you see Redlock was the last one which got updated with the CSPM side. Now everything was towards shift left, and this particular piece of DevSecOps was not shifting left. At that point in time, company like HashiCorp, they evolved, and with Terraform, they made adaptation on the automation on the cloud front so easy as ISC. And in fact, they started overcoming the hurdles which Ansible, Chef, and Puppet were facing at that point. So we had a lot of confidence with regards to what they were doing. So in regards to that, when we looked at that trend of HashiCorp Terraform, we understood one part. That if we are able to pre-scan all of that before the code is deployed, that's the first step of the shift left, and that could actually help a lot of the DevOps side of the world to. They do not need a security personnel after they deploy the cloud, and then they are able to see all the vulnerability and misconfiguration, which was the runtime tools they were doing. But what if you're actually deploying the cloud with all the vulnerability and misconfiguration? There was no tool at that point. There was no guardrail. At that point in time, I think HashiCorp made the job easier, to be really honest. And that's where, when we picked up the trend, we saw, this is something we can definitely hook ourselves onto, and we can definitely work towards it in tangent. And when we started moving along with this process, so we looked at the overall industry 10, and that's where the curve of CSPM reinvention was happening again. So because after Redlock there was like no other company, and before Redlock there were like the last which innovation happened like 3 4 years back. So every, like, even if you see any other tool on the compliance side as well, on the threat detection as well, they have 3 or 4 years, and then the tool gets reinvented by somebody else. So I think that was the time we picked it up. It worked out well.
Nice. And
Hope that
uh,
answers.
yeah, so a lot of the viewership is founders, aspiring founders, and then we have business leaders. For those of them who are not familiar with the security landscape a little bit, could you articulate what exact problem were you solving with Accurics in a
Yeah.
more of a layman sort of terminology?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in a very, very layman terminology, and I can explain, because imagine somebody explained it to me, and I have to explain it, being a non-engineering side. So it's very simple. Right now, if you have to deploy cloud, like if 10 years back, if you have to deploy cloud, you might have to write some commands in the command prompt, and put the host server name, the ports, XYZ parameters, and then and then you have your application, which is your, like, for example, let's take an example of uh, the app called Pradeep.ai. Okay, so that's the app we are building at this point. So Pradeep.ai has to be deployed, and now what is needed to deploy Pradeep.ai? We need cloud application we already have, which some coder has already put code together, and then we need an ISC today. But in the olden era, we never had that. Like, we had that, but in the name of Ansible Chef Puppet, but they were not hyper automation tools, but they had their own limitations. So people used to do either through the command prompt, or either they were doing through a UI. Like, they'll go to an Amazon portal, AWS portal, or Azure portal, or GCP portal, and they'll click here and there and give all the commands, put the file in, upload, and there you go. But now imagine this is just Pradeep.ai, but Pradeep.ai is equivalent to the size of Facebook. Now what do? You'll get exhausted, and if you have to deploy that level of workload and those kind of things, you have something called as ISCs, which basically automate the whole deployment of the cloud engine. What happens is, and this is the one of the ISCs which we worked on was called Terraform. So, and this Terraform, at the time when it gets deployed, and when a so basically that role is done by either an SRE or either a DevOps guy. So sometimes these roles are quite mixed. So sometimes either an SRE or a DevOps person will be doing it. When a DevOps person is doing it, he's not a security person, so he doesn't know from a security angle perspective what all, from a compliance standpoint. You have multiple compliance, GDPR, SOC 2, NIST, things like that. So, and these compliance make sure that your overall architecture is secure, and don't get hacked, breached, or whatever. And it's these are compliance stuff. If you are in a particular kind of business, you have to follow it. If you are in medical, you have to follow HIPAA. So it's those are the frameworks we everyone uses. So before deployment, a DevOps won't know what all things uh, uh, he has to apply his compliance to. What our tool did was it empowered that DevOps guy with the automation that when he's deploying the tool itself, when he deploying the cloud itself, he just passes the whole stuff, the whole ISC through our engine, and he used to get all the list of vulnerability, misconfiguration against particular set of compliance. So that's what it did, and then he has power to remediate it manually, or it could get auto remediated. So that's what I think that's the best I could explain.
No, I think that totally makes sense, right? So you're trying to help these whoever is deploying stuff into cloud sort of pre-detect any vulnerabilities that might be leaking. In a way, it also looks like a hard problem. But before we sort of talk about the product, are there other competitors doing similar stuff? Like, why did you think that? I know you've studied the entire market, and were there other players doing the similar stuff? So if so, why did you think that there was some business that you could build out of it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's actually a very good question. So there was another company called Bridge Crew, which got acquired by Palo Alto few months before we got acquired. So when it came to the problem solving on that, I think the advantage which we had was the number of policies we had. So the kind of the core tech which we were running with, we had an open source tool called TerraScan. Open source is, I think most of the people know, but you can just go on to the library, open source library, which is available on the internet, and then you can import it, and you can work around with it. You don't have to pay. So we had an open source tool which was called TerraScan, and that itself we had around 500, 600 plus policies. where our competition itself, in an enterprise level, he was giving 200 policies. In our enterprise grade uh, uh, package, we were selling 3,500 policies. So it's always, I think, we definitely take this line very seriously, that you don't need to be ahead of competition just by a bit. You need to be ahead so much in advance that competition to catch you will take at least 1.5 year. So if you have an 18 months runway, I think you have a very good shot, and then it's just matter of execution. So we did study the market, we did study the background, and I think the one of the advantage which came for us when we look at the competition versus us, the kind of clients we had, so which will come as we talk about more GTM. But that's where we gained the confidence that the kind of number of policies which we are coming up with, the kind of the security intelligence which we had from our policy roadmap, from our architecture roadmap, was much superior than our competition.
I see. So the way you are differentiating with the other competitors is in the number of policies and superior technology. So is that what you are betting on?
Yes, and then go to market.
Go to market. Okay. Now, let's talk about the product itself. Looks fairly complicated, right? So I have this black box application. I run it through your engine, and then you are magically detecting all these crucial vulnerabilities, which would have cost hefty amounts for corporations, like leaking customer data or whatever, not compliant with different standards. Now, could you sort of did you build the entire technology, or did you leverage some of the technologies that were existent at the time?
I think we built most of the technology. Like there was nothing which was leveraged by outside at that point.
So, could you sort of give us insights into, did you guys have a clear view in terms of how to build a product like this, or like what were some building challenges as you were putting
Oh
together
yeah,
this technology?
yeah. Very very good question. So I mean, when you start, you really don't know, how it will go, where it will go. Like the current company which I started, just started like 7 months back. It's completely different than what I thought it will start with. But when we started with the Accurics part, I think one of the things was, yes, we were aware that the problem exactly what we have to solve. So from a vision perspective, things were very clear. What changed was strategy and execution. And so from a vision perspective, we were very clear that we are here to protect ISE. Now, irrespective, it can give some other advantages as well. Now, every feature was centralized towards this one particular feature, that we'll protect ISE. What else it can give us? If I protect ISE, and tomorrow if somebody, and my cloud is deployed through that particular Terraform script, somebody breaks the glass in the runtime, like if my active cloud is running and somebody breaks the glass and tries to make some changes in my uh, in the runtime environment in my cloud, active cloud, that can actually signal the original ISE that there is some issue which is going on. So now, just building that one tool, I can also build a tool which is called single source of truth for ISE. That is another advantage which we got. Now, on top of it, we built another feature. So every feature was on top of it. We started doing hem charts. We started doing, so the whole focus was that.
Hmm.
And then once this whole thing is covered, then we will move on to runtime, which we did when we actually moved into Tenable.
Nice. So the very focused approach.
Very, very focused approach. Yeah. Because you have limited resources. We raised $20 million. I mean, we didn't raise like 500, 600 million.
No, that's super impressive. And can you talk about the co-founding team and a bit of the origination of this team? Because I think having right people in the ship is half the battle won in many cases. But could you talk about how this team all came together?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so the founding team was, so there was Piyush Sharma. He was the ex VP at Symantec. Brilliant engineering leadership, and brilliant leadership in itself. So, and then we had Om Mulchandani, the youngest CISO I ever met. He was CISO at Autogrid, won a lot of awards, and that's where our security intelligence was coming from. And he was also at GE, so he has seen a lot of things very closely, and he was also the venture partner for GE Ventures, like the advisor for venture partner. So the whole leadership team at that point, we were like, we knew security was coming from the security leadership is coming from the core subject matter expertise will be Om, the core leadership on the engineering side, and most of the other stuff will be driven by Piyush. And then my part, what I knew was I have to just focus on two things: just make sure the operations are running smoothly, and there has to be no point where teams are building something and we do not have enough pipeline. So I had enough pipeline at that time, and from the customer standpoint, I think we cracked we had customers like SpaceX, we had customers like Nasdaq, NBA, Automation Anywhere. So the kind of premium customers list which we had at that point was very crucial to us, and these are very strategic customers. It was not a random pick, because we knew exactly the kind of the infrastructure they would have and the kind of services they would need from us. We had Service Max as well as our customers, which was also pretty challenging. But yeah, they were all good initially production partners as well. So that's the founding team which we had at that point. Those were our responsibilities, how we shared. So basically, and everyone was kind of a watchdog for the other person, because if, like, I'm giving enough clients and then they're not delivering, it's my name at stake at that point in time. And if Piyush is delivering and then there are not enough customers, then they can always come back to me, and then from a security angle perspective, they need a thought leadership. That point in time, Om is coming, and then he's holding the baton.
No, what an outstanding team. Such complementing teams are very, very rare. And if you ask me, I think your role was much difficult, like lining up the clients, because a lot of the other things are often, you get certain intelligence from top view, really looking things down and other things. But we'll talk more on that in a bit. Can you also talk about the go to market? What's your strategy? How did you want to acquire these initial clients? Because on one hand, I'm not sure you have the final product yet, but you're still lining up customers. Can you give us the more of a first principles view of the go to market strategy that you've had?
Good question. I can comfortably answer this. uh, so go to market, I think. So go to market is kind of divide. For me, it was always divided in two parts. There is branding go to market, and then there is the no brand, like the non-branded go to market, where you have the non-branded go to market, like where you are just, it's like outbound approach. So I had, my network. I'm an ex Cisco. A good part was, while I was in Cisco, most of the people I was dealing with were VPs, SVPs at that point. By the time I came out, been 5-6 years, most of them were like CTOs, CEOs, and some of the big companies. Good part, like, again, if you maintain good relationship with people, someday or the other, I mean, you never know who can just offer their hand to help you. So few of them, they were very eager to help me out. I think I'm very grateful to them. Unisys being one of the clients. My friend Vishal, he was VP uh, at Cisco, and an SVP at Symantec. So then we had a few of the other customers as well, like Automation Anywhere was one of those, where we kind of approached them that we are building this, and what do you think? And then they're like, yeah, I mean, this is a problem which we are facing, why don't you talk to our folks? And as soon as you start talking, the pain is deep enough that teams resonate with it. And then that's where your product idea should be sharp enough that if they're listening to it, the pain should be very deep.
Mhm.
If they're listening to it and it's not hurting them, I think the time is to pivot. So that's when. So the go to market initially was definitely friends and families where you can just rely on them, uh, and they can rely on you. They know your quality of work. But then the best thing which happened to us was when we brought somebody named Upa. And Upa was she was the CMO for Prisma Cloud, and Prisma was our direct competition when it came to on the not the shift left, but they were more on the red lock side of the world. But when Upa came in, she came with very thorough experience and on the go-to-market side, and then she also generated extremely good leads. So we kind of did this in tandem, and we were able to close a couple of really solid deals over there. Yes, few of the things which needs to be mentioned here is don't undermine Gartner quadrant. Don't undermine Gartner being a cool vendor is an underplay. It's definitely important. It's always helpful. Trade shows are definitely, your presence is always important. If you are not there in your booth, like, or you don't have a booth, your presence itself is going to make a huge difference. Just go and check out the market. Don't ignore what's going on in the market. So those most of the kind of things which will definitely help. Uh, and basically just maintain good relationship with most of the people and do good work, because people will remember, and also people will not remember what you did for them. People will remember how you made them feel.
Awesome.
So this is what the philosophy of go to market is always.
No, that's a lot to learn there, right there. And so, did the product stay the same as you started talking to customers, or did the product evolve as you started speaking to the customers at this
No,
stage?
it definitely. So, from a vision perspective, yes, it did not change. We were securing ISCs on day one. We were securing ISCs the day we got sold. From a feature adding perspective, like we had couple of features like custom policy build. Like, for example, as I told you, like we had a lot of policies. So one of the customers said that, all your policies are good, but me as an organization is so complex. I want to write my own policies. So like, can I do that? I was like, okay, let's try that out. And so our core engineer, his name was Harshit Omar. I would like to mention him. He took day and night effort, and he made the whole stream of custom policy build. And then we deployed it. And the advantage we got was we were able to see the kind of policies, the complexities an organization could face from a custom policy side. So yes, you start from one vision, but then you keep adding the feature, and then those feature sets become so complex that it becomes a huge. So, and then yes, when I'm going to an investor initially, most of the investor would say that it's wait, this is not a product, this is a feature. But after this is what happens when you start with just is the small product, and then you have these kind of customers giving you inputs. The feature set becomes so thick that it's not just a feature anymore, it's a product in itself.
Nice. And as since we are talking about GTMs, are there any lessons that you learned? Like, for example, the things that didn't work for you, that where you wasted time, that you wish that you did not.
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. I think the GTM approach which we had was initially was little immature, I would say. At a point where our focus was to initially sell. But I think eventually we did evolve there, and we were then more focused on the problem what they're facing, uh, and then just resonating more to the problem what the customer is facing. So that evolution happens because we were like first time founders, and, but yeah, I mean, we had very thick background on the corporate side. So when you do startups, you have limited resources. But yes, this is like my 2 cents would be your GTM would mature. You will start listening to customers more. Initially, I think in desperation, people would listen less.
Nice. And Let's talk about sales. What was the sales process like? I think you pretty much warmed up all these leads. So, did you have to put together like a repeatable process for sales at all?
So see, our sales process was the most complex one. Like I would say, and given you are coming from a very thick engineering background and you yourself are an engineering leader, I come to you with this product, you won't be able to buy it because you will say this is coming from a CISO's budget. Though if you have a DevOps team, your DevOps team will be using it, but it's a DevSecOps product. And since security is part of it, now how do you share it? Now I have to involve CISO as well. And sometime I'm talking to the CISO, and CISO loves this product, but he has to involve the CTO or the engineering VP or the SRE team or the DevOps team. So every time it's like a two prong sale, which is the pain in the wrong place. Because what is happening is initially, if I have something to sell on Salesforce, I'll go to a sales ops guy or a sales team and will sell them. If I have Gainsight, I'll go to customer success team. I have a very clear vision on that. Like people are selling VMware, engineering, IT infra. They're very clear. These kind of tools, you have two prong sales. You have CISO to be sold, like he has to be sold out on the product, and then if he's okay, the DevOps team has to do the POC, and then so the whole sales process becomes so long, which we definitely faced that challenge, and I think uh, I would say it was unavoidable at a point because it's the complexity of the organization. It's not me as a person. Our product is our product, but it's just the complexity. So maybe I think what better we could have done, and because see, we built and sold the company in 20 months. The whole point was that if we would have like survived a more longer period, I think we would have just made sure that the bond, which is the what do you call a budget authority need and time. That's the process on the sales side. Do you want me to explain it? I don't know.
No, no, I sort of
Yeah.
understand the
Yes.
complexity there. Yeah.
Yes. So the point is that we wanted the authority part to be not very diluted and more condensed. I think that is where this particular tool or this particular the whole DevSecOps stuff is very tough at this point. For any most of the investors, they are having a similar pain point, and they're not able to understand how they can actually boost the sale because it's a archi- it's a archi- it's a system problem.
Yeah.
It's an organization problem.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can't
It's a
do that.
tough problem. It's a tough problem. I can see that. I mean, you have to pick multiple product champions here in many ways, and then
Yeah.
they all can veto at any point of time. So I think that's a hard problem. But there's nothing we can do. It's the way the orgs are set up.
Yep.
Well, awesome. So let's talk about acquisition. Everyone loves acquisition. Is this your first exit? And could you just walk us through your experience going through this acquisition?
I mean, yeah, as a founder, definitely it was my first exit, but I think I've seen many exits. I joined Covances, got acquired by CSC. I joined WebEx, it got acquired by Cisco. I joined, and this happened like as soon as I joined, in 3 months, I hear a news, oh, there is an acquisition. They're like, okay, wow. So, like, I think it worked out well every time. And then, as a founder, yes, it was definitely the first exit I saw.
And can you just walk us through how did this come about? Like, who initiated this acquisition? What went behind? And
There's certain things which are confidential, so I'll keep it confidential. But whatever
yeah.
I can definitely tell. So most of this, again, the way it worked out for us was we did spend a lot on marketing, and that because we knew this space is very noisy, and
Mm.
when you know it is noisy, you marketing can create good noise for you. So you have to make sure that you are creating enough for yourself. Then you have multiple companies which they have frameworks, and somebody like companies like the biggest companies like Palo Alto and all that, They have their own set of frameworks, and they have their own ways of approach on the acquisition side. You have companies like CrowdStrike, Zscalers of the world. They're huge companies. When you look at them, you understand a pattern, the way they approach an acquisition. When I look at Tenable, I understand the way they look at an acquisition. So while you start a company, you pretty much know on day one, the kind of pattern you're building. There is a touch point for this company which is coming very soon. It's going to come today, tomorrow, or day after. It's just matter of and most of the time it is just the capacity part as well, right? So from an acquisition perspective, I think we got very lucky. Uh, we got inbound rather than outbound, because that's the best. One good part happened was Bridge Crew got acquired at 156 million. So, and we were running in parallel with regards to our open source tool, their open source tool, their revenue, our revenue, their team, our team, like, and then we knew what everyone is going through. And then they got acquired first, and then they set up the benchmark for us, and then we got couple of interest, and then while getting acquired, I think one of the most crucial part, I would say, is the cultural fit for your team. Because see, as a founder, yes, personally you make enough money. You can come out of the company, and then you can think of doing putting some another startup. But there are people who might not like to do a startup again, and for them you need to find the right home, and they feel secure and safe for a bit preferred duration of time. So that's, I think, cultural fit wise was our core criteria. Definitely, the number was important, but I think culture fit was most important, because you could get few millions extra, and then if you land up in a very toxic culture, uh, you might actually regret the decision.
No, that totally makes sense. You mentioned about a pattern for acquisition. Would you like to give a sense into that? Quick sense into what's this pattern?
Yes, I mean, see the pattern. Okay, I can maybe touch base on few of it. If you see the market trends, right? Trust me. So today, I don't know if if you'll going to if we'll be all going to RSA. I hope to see you there if you're coming. But if you go to RSA, what happens generally is you'll have so many companies. You'll have vendor fatigue. You know, you come out, you don't even remember what you saw. And when you have that kind of density of startups uh, coming in the market, how do you differentiate yourself? Now you have to start reading the what do you call, the hints from which are coming from the biggies of the world, which are like, say for example, the Palos, or the Zscalers, and all the big companies, like even Google Security and things like that. They acquired Mandiant and all. You have to start hearing the clue what they're actually giving. Everyone is focused on AI now. Would it take a Nobel laureate to guess where the next 20 or 30 acquisitions of these companies are going to be? It will be CSPM, but with an AI. It will be CWPP, but with an AI. It will be container security, but with an AI. It will be a firewall, but with an AI. However, the firewall architecture is like, the complex one. But yes, I mean, so anything which tops the AI layer, right? That's where the acquisition is going today, right? So and for us, our moment was anything which is doing shift left is going to get acquired. So that was our era. But today, if somebody I'll do shift left, I mean, he's going to waste his time. So most of the companies which are working on ISC itself are wasting time, because after Terraform announced that they are not going to be open source anymore, most of the folks moved to open to.
Yeah, agreed. Awesome. That's we're almost at the end of this part. We have one section where more like a rapid fire sort of questions. And could you tell us your what's your favorite book that you would recommend to everyone else?
Uh, Favorite book? Interesting one. My favorite book is I just recently read that. The Psychology of Money.
And who's your favorite entrepreneur?
Favorite entrepreneur? Definitely Ratan Tata.
And what is that one life hack that sort of helped you live a better life?
I think just live in the present. Being an entrepreneur, you have 30,000 problems which are coming in front of you. You have 30,000 problems which are there in the back. Things will get managed. Don't worry. Hire the right team. Things will get managed. But if you can just focus on right now, you can just live today, just now. That's good enough. That's I think is the key mantra.
Such a valuable insight. Well, we're at the end of the pod, but I have another question, and this is for all those aspiring founders out there. What is, now that you've established yourself as a successful founder who had seen it all from end to end, what is your playbook for new startups?
Question. So I'm already putting another one. It's been 7 months. Just giving a very high level. It's a stealth mode. In 7 months, I'm like around 3.5 million in revenue. Tell it to somebody. I think definitely they're a little bit surprised. Then I tell them the pipeline's around 7 million in pipeline, which I'll be closing around by October, November. It's like, okay, how? So this is where the GTM learning all the mistakes which we did, all the things which we did, it's all coming in reality and sinking in. So my ticket size is bigger, but things like so all those kind of things. But I think more or less, if I'm not wrong, your question is what will be my advice to the startup founders who are trying to.
Yes. Yeah. Suggesting a playbook for them.
I mean, see, everyone has a different playbook. See, that's where I think, and their playbook depends on what they are good at.
Yeah. Your playbook. In your case,
Okay,
your
my
playbook.
playbook. See, I'm so okay. I'll tell about myself. So I'm extremely good at understanding high level architecture, basic level engineering, what works. I don't code. I can code, but at a very high level, I understand how the market flows, how things will run into the industry. So at least from that perspective, that helps me put a GTM strategy together from an industry perspective. So then I'll actually look into the industry growth rate. Okay, these are the industries which are going to grow. Okay, if I have to actually focus, I'll just focus on these three segments and just put my head down towards these things and then start zooming into it. So there are few of the industries are going to grow at almost at the pace of 20, 30, or maybe 40%, which is a very phenomenal growth rate year on year, uh, which the current startup is kind of working on. So first of all, when you're actually picking up the problem itself, make sure that the problem first of all really exists. I mean, it's not me who's this. Everyone must be saying this. A very generic one, but it's the most crucial one. Like the problem has to be really there. It shouldn't be in your mind. And how do you validate this? So the playbook, the rule number one is get the industry experts. Like if I have to put a cybersecurity startup today, I'll get a bunch of 10 CISOs. We'll interview them that do you even face this problem? And if you face this problem, they say yes, then pay me money for it. They're like, no, then you're not facing this problem. They have to eventually agree to pay for it. That's rule number one. And then put a right team together, which complements each other's inability to do some things. So that another is the most crucial part. Then the third one is now put an MVP together and show to the 10 people which said that you said this problem, now I'm solving it. What should I do now? Trust me, of those 10 people, 3 or 4 will appreciate your hard work and definitely would like to work with you. Get the right advisors. Don't get advisors just for like, okay, he's going to buy my product. One of the biggest mistakes the startups do, they put the advisory, they get the sale done, and then the renewal is stuck. And when the renewal is stuck, you show what you had, and then you don't show a renewal, and then you go for a fundraising. It's like, okay, investor as an investor today, I know, okay, I know how did you got that sale. Come on, that guy's sitting on your cap table. So, that's very simple to actually point out. So don't do that. I mean, your product has to be invaluable enough. Have great relationship with the industry people, not just taking them out for whining and dining. You have to really be in that circle. How I think you have to be more out on the street versus in on Zoom, because there is no COVID. So please go to all the parties for the cybersecurity folks in RSA, for all the technology folks in MWC, or AI World Congress is coming in London. So, I mean, for DevOps, KubeCon is there. Like, there are so many things going on. So, be there. Like, build your network. There is enough business. The most crucial part I'll tell you here: have enough pipeline so you're not dependent on one or two clients. Don't be like your pipeline. There are millions of companies in the world. What is stopping you to actually pick up the phone call and start calling people, or trying to connect people on LinkedIn? Don't throw a very dirty cold mail. And it just has to be warm, and like, you really need to build a connection with that person. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes 18-20 hours of regular every day, that startup. Otherwise it won't happen. And once you do that, your sales cycle for your particular company, you will try to, and every company would be different. This was for me. And then, once you have sales cycle, you have engineering cycle, you have a feedback loop mechanism, auto correction mechanism, you have policing around your own company, which is your own people are policing the quality of the people who are coming in. I mean, you're building a great startup.
Awesome. This is such a tremendous episode. I think there is so much to unpack and learn. And I don't generally get to see content like this, at least for me, from folks who've actually done it till the end. But yeah, I really appreciate you being on this pod, Sharad. Thank you for your time and thank you for all those valuable insights.
Thank you so much, Pradeep, for calling. Really appreciate it.